Hello, my peeps out there. This is Mrs. C. It's early in the morning. I am going to try and do a quick answer video for you from our evaluation challenge. And let me see if I can fix this. Okay, let's do it. All right, this problem is no stranger to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to break it down for you. Break it down, and just show you basically how to have attacked this one. Why don't we just put our values in? We have a -3, and then the x value is 3. So that's multiplication. We're going to minus the y value is a -2. So you're going to have a double negative right there. Then you have these big parentheses coming up. You have a y minus x. Well, if y is a -2 and x is 3, that's y -2 minus 3. Then we have one more parenthesis set, and we go with the 2 times the absolute value of xy. Now there's a difference between this, and the relationship between this absolute value, xy, that's multiplication, right? xy means x times y. So inside the absolute value bars, you have 3 times -2. Over here on the left, this one, that's y minus 7. That's not multiplication, that's a subtraction relationship. Now we know if the signs are the same, we add. It doesn't matter what the sign in the middle is. If the signs are the same, we add. Signs are different, we find the difference. But clearly we're not multiplying, I guess, is the point here. So now if I go to my next row of process, I'm just changing colors as I go to the next rows. I think it might be easier for you to follow. We can go and take care of anything that has a parenthesis. In this case, maybe -3 times 3, that would be a -9. And even though the relationship is multiplication, and then I have more parentheses over here, with algebra, it's really kind of important to understand that as long as you don't add and subtract first to numbers that are outside of a parenthesis, you're okay with doing any multiplication, anything's inside the parentheses, as long as you don't add and subtract anything. There are a couple other minor, maybe, exceptions to that, but I think the more practice you do, the more you actually just get an intuition as to what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. So let's come over here. We see a parenthesis. It's because it's telling me I'm supposed to times those. So I'm going to go ahead and do the multiplication, and then I drop the parenthesis. So I wind up with that. Now the next parenthesis set, I want you to notice, excuse me, there's no symbol. I'm losing my voice. There's no symbol between those parentheses, so the multiplication is implied. So it's really the +2 times this quantity. So I'm just going to leave it in parentheses so that I remember to times whatever I get when I do a -2 minus 3. Now -2 minus 3 is -5. And see, multiply those two. And if you see it while you're here, just put a multiplication symbol between there so you don't forget. Here we come again. Parenthesis touching parenthesis, multiplication of those parentheses. So we have a 2 times the absolute value of 3 times a -2. Now 3 times a -2 is -6. You don't put a +6 because it's inside absolute value bars. You put a +6 when you take it out of the absolute value bars. And that was a little thing you guys were getting a little bit confused on when we did this in class. All right, I think I need another color. I'm going to go to a different color. Here we go. Now, I'm going to continue to go inside parentheses and take care of everything until all I have is addition and subtraction. So I have still the -9. I have a +2 times a -5. I got to do that before I can add and subtract. So +2 times a -5 is a -10. No more parentheses because I did what I was told. Now I have just bring down bring down the multiplication. It keeps telling me to select. I don't want to select. Multiply 2 absolute value -6. Now I only wrote that because I wanted to ask you, what's the absolute value of -6? It's 6. What are you supposed to do with the 2 and the 6? You're supposed to multiply. So 2 times 6 is actually 12. It's a positive 12, so it turns out that I'm supposed to multiply the value of that parenthesis, which is 12. Again, the absolute value of a negative 6 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. Now I'm still not done. Can you believe I still have more multiplying to do? I can't, but I do, right there. Negative 10 times the 12 is negative 120. Bring down the negative 9 and negative 120. There's your subtraction, or in this case, same sign, sum, addition. Negative 129 was the answer to our Paris, France challenge. And then we moved on, right? We played an amazing race around the world, and once you met this negative 129, you were free to move on to, do you remember where we moved on to? Portugal. Here we are, Portugal. So in our Portugal challenge, we had a fraction for the first time. So we're just going to go over here and clean it up. I think I'm going to try and see if I can clean it up off to the side. And I'd like to do that to save space. That's all. You're fine to work down. So I'm just going to evaluate. We have 2 times x, which is 2 times 4. And then I'm minusing a y, which is a 3, and the quantity of z, which is negative 2. No big deal there. Now I'm going to come on down here, and I'm going to take care of these double parentheses. I have an x minus z, so x is 4, minus z is a negative. You can also do this, a negative negative 2. Don't have to put the parentheses. You can do the double negative. I don't like you to do the negative negative as a positive in your head, though. That makes me a little nervous. Then I have a negative y. Now, y is a positive 3, so it's a negative 3, because y is a negative y. So if y is positive, it becomes negative. Then I'm supposed to plus z. Z, again, is a negative 2, so there's those double signs. You can do double signs without parentheses. Sometimes it's a little less confusing. So if I come over here with another color, let's just pick something that's definitely different. Don't take too long. Don't take too long. Just going to pick red. Then you would see this is plus, and you would see that is minus, and it's just a real quick step when we move over here. So let's look at that numerator. 2 times 4, that's 8, minus 3 times a negative 2. So a negative 3 times a negative 2 is a positive 6. Come on down to the denominator. I'm looking at this 4 plus 2. That's an old school 4 plus 2. That's 6, right, guys? And then what's the relationship between these two parentheses? You see them? Exactly. That's multiplication. Be careful. Be very careful not to add this 6. And what is this going to be? Negative 3 minus 2. That's a negative 5. A lot of mistakes going on there when you guys actually forgot it's a times relationship. So we have 6 and 8. That's 14, isn't it? I think so. Oh my gosh, what did I do? 14 did something weird with my screen. And 6 times a negative 5 is a negative 30. That can be simplified to, well, let's see, what goes into both of those numbers evenly? 2. 2 divides evenly into both. This is a simplifying a fraction. 14 divided by 2 is 7. 30 divided by 2 is 15, but it was a negative 30. Negative 15. I like to write that answer with the negative on the side, like a side of fries. Negative on the side. 7/15 was the final answer. And we move on. That was our journey through Portugal. Goodbye. Goodbye, beautiful Portugal. And we moved on to, do you remember? It was Zurich, Switzerland. Now, I had already erased my process. You can see my red marks through the X's. I believe what I had done was I substituted the value of X as a 1. So I just could not erase those 1s without erasing the X's, and I was lazy. So I've already evaluated here, except for my little y. And in this case, the little y would have been the negative 1, right? So let's just do that out. We had a 4 times, right? 1 squared, which is 1, plus 2 times x cubed. And x was a 1, so it was 1 cubed. 1 cubed is 1. Then we minus a 1 squared. 1 squared is 1. And then we add a negative 1. squared. Negative 1 times negative 1 is 1, and so we're adding a 1. Many of you noticed that the negative 1 and the positive 1 cancel out. I do want you to follow through and do your multiplication here before you add and subtract. And then, of course, you see it doesn't really matter because they did cancel in the end right there, leaving you 4 plus 2 is 6. That was a quick journey through Zurich, Switzerland, wasn't it? Wish I could have stayed a little bit longer. Here the chocolate is to die for. But we moved on, and we moved on to Delhi, India. We were racing through the world, not spending enough time in each place because let me tell you, those countries we just flew through, there's lots to see. But here we are in Delhi, and Delhi is a saucy place. Look at this problem we have to do. I need a new color. What's a good Delhi color? I find the purples are very popular in India. So let me try evaluating in purple. Now, I'm looking at this problem and I'm trying to think, wasn't that a Z? Why did I put a 5 there? I don't know, because I am quite certain that that was a Z. I erased it when I was doing the problem, and I don't know what I was thinking of with a 5. 5 doesn't even look like a Z. Let's evaluate. We have an X. That's a negative 4. Let's try the double signs. Let's see if it's easier with double signs than with parentheses. So I have a negative 4 plus y. What's y? Y is a negative 2. I don't have to put plus a negative 2, but I guess if it makes you feel better, we could. And then plus, what's z? A negative 1. Now that looks messy to me, but I'm just going to keep an open mind. Now, let's do something fun. Let's actually multiply x and y together up in the process and see if we can do this. What's x? Negative 4. What's y? Negative 2. What's x times y? Positive 8. That's doing a little process in your head so that you don't have to write everything down and get confused. Now let's copy that down and do it again. See me putting everything there except what the product of y and z is. So what's y? Negative 2. What's z? Negative 1. What's y times z? 2. It's really hard not to add and subtract those, isn't it? Because you're looking at it, it says negative 2 times a negative 1, but negative 2, negative 1, which makes you just want a same sign sum them, doesn't it? No, it's multiplication. 2 times 1 is 2. Negative times negative is a positive. One more of these. What's the relationship here? Multiplication. There's no sign in the middle. Z was a negative 1. What's a negative 1 times a negative 1 times a negative 1? That's what cubed means. It's a negative 1. And so negative 1 cubed is negative 1. Whew. All right, well, it looks a whole lot better now. Now, a lot of you just jumped right into doing these numbers. You combined them all, and that's where you screwed up. You can't combine all of them because there's a relationship here that is multiplication between the negative 1 and the 8. So when you went and added these guys, you added before multiplying, and you added the 1 into the 4 and the 2 instead of timesing it. And that's, or you wound up adding the 4 and the 2 and the 1 and timesing that whole product, or excuse me, the whole sum of those. And either way, it was just a hot mess. So do me a favor, let's just do the multiplication. That would be these, the number touching the parenthesis. Now, you got to take care of double signs first, though. If you're going to leave these double signs all over the place, get rid of them. Negative, negative. Okay, so it's really a negative 4 minus 2 minus 1 times 8. That is minus 2 squared. Now, we could do, while we're here, let's just do that. What's 2 squared? What's 2 squared? 4. Well, that's easier. And then it's times a negative 1. I just prefer parentheses to dots. Let's do the timesing. Negative 1 times 8 is negative 8. And what's a negative 4 times negative 1? That's a positive 4. Now we're done. See how the parentheses disappear. The pluses and the minuses are all that's left. That's why all that's left is addition and subtraction. So we just got to put all these together. Put all of your same signs together. Add them. 8 and 2 is 10 and 4 is 14. They're negative, same sign, sum, keep the sign. One of them's a negative 14. What's left is this positive 4. Negative 14 and positive 4 is negative 10. Well, Deli, it was wonderful to have you. I wound up in red instead of purple, but I got to move on. Later, Deli. Wish I knew how to say goodbye in Delanian, or whatever. Sorry, whatever the language is. Where's Miss Cag? I need help. But we're moving on to Bali, Indonesia, a place I have always wanted to visit. Don't ask me why, I'm not sure. But Indonesia, it just looks so exotic. Well, I don't know how much time I'll have in Indonesia, so I better get moving. Let's evaluate. We have 2. I went with green because there's just so much greenery in Indonesia. Beautiful mountains and valleys and flowers and rivers and lakes, and I shouldn't be talking because I'm trying to evaluate here at the same time. Don't worry, I'm going to double check. If you see that I have screwed up, I fully intend on double checking what I'm doing here. Minus 3 parentheses. Okay, I'm going to double check. Let's go through it again. So the 2 times x is 3, is this 2 times 3. Then we bring down the negative 3, and in the parentheses we have the 5 minus 2, y, and y was a negative 2. Then I close those parentheses, bring down the negative 4, and then evaluate inside the parentheses. Y again was a negative 2, and then it was a plus. Hang on. There's a plus there. What did I do? It was plus 2. I caught that mistake. It was plus 2 times y, which was a negative 2, and then it was a minus, and x was 3. Okay. Always do that, guys, no matter how good you are. I'm not saying I'm good, but I'm a little good. No matter how good you are, always double check your work. All right, I'm going to go to a nice blue color, deep blue, to do some parenthesis work. All right, I'll just do this first set, this 2 with the parenthesis 3. The 2 times 3 is 6. Minus, here we go. Here's what many of you do. You did a distributive property. I don't recommend that, guys, because I usually only distribute if I don't know. If I have a variable in here and I don't have a variable, I'm just going to evaluate. So here we want to do multiplication before we go and add and subtract. So a negative 2 times a negative 2 is a positive 4, and the 5. And so what's inside the parentheses is 5 plus 4, which we can also do, which is 9. So inside the parentheses is 9. Bring down that negative 3. So see what I did? I've got the 6, the negative, the 3, and what that parenthesis set was equal to, and in the end was equal to 9. Now I'm going to bring down the negative 4. I'm going to do the same thing to all that nonsense. So I'm going to go right in here. 2 times a negative 2 is a negative 4. Then it's minus 3, and then the negative 2 in front. Same sign. Add them all up. A 4 and a 3 is 7. 2 more is 9. Negative 9. Doesn't that look a whole lot easier? I think so. I mean, it does to me. So now I'm going to go ahead and change my color. I've got to move quickly because I've got to be done with my video. I've got a 3 times 9, 27. It was a negative 3 times 9, so it's a negative 27. Bring that 6 down. And then here I have a negative 4 times a negative 9 is a negative, no, it's a positive. Negative times negative is positive. 4 times 9 is 36. See what happens when you start to rush. Okay, I like to add my same sign, so I'm going to do a 6 and a 36. That's going to give me 42, if you don't mind me just doing this. A positive 42 and a negative 27. I'm hoping that's 15 because my answer, I believe, is supposed to be 15. So I'm just going to come over here and do some old school. Look at that. Old school subtraction. Who says you didn't know? I need to know how to do that. You do. The final answer is 15. Okay, it is past time for me to be done, but I am going to push through this last example. We are going to evaluate. Now watch me because I am in a hurry. This could be fun. We end, of course, we say goodbye to Indonesia, and hello to US, the good old USA, New York, New York. Got to use red, right, for the Big Apple. I'm going to evaluate here. I'm going to evaluate on the actual fraction. I always do this when I have fractions like this. Z is equal to a -2, x plus y, 5 plus 4. You see how the x and the y are both positive, and it's a plus? I'm just going to do 5 plus 4 is 9, and that would be -2. I'm not going to do that yet. My y in the denominator is 4. And let me go take this y is 4 also. I'm just going to write -4. And then my x was 5. And my z was a -2. I have to remember that it's times. So I'm going to say times z, which is a -2. I know many of your screw-ups, you did 5 squared and then you minused 2. But it says x squared z. That means multiply. And that was a big concern for a lot of you. You were getting the wrong answer and you couldn't figure out why. Focus on here. This is what I'm evaluating now. I need to multiply the -2 to the 9. That's going to be -18 minus 2. Then I'm going to go to the denominator, half of y. A lot of you freaked out because there was a half there. It's half y. Half of y is 2. Then we come over here. I'm over here now. 5 squared. 5 squared is 25. We said times -2. And in the denominator, just a -4. Okay, I'm going to change my color so that you can see what I'm doing now. I have a negative. I'm over here now, back in the numerator. -18 and -2 is a -20. And what else can I do? I can do this. 25 times a -2 is a -50. I'm really almost done. Right over here, and I'm just going to come off to the side, I have a -20 over 2. Do you know that a -20 over 2 is a -10? I hope you do. This is equal to a -10. I'm going to circle it so you don't lose it. And I'm supposed to add that to this fraction over here, a -50 over a -4. Well, a negative over a negative is positive, so it's just a matter of what's 50 over 4. I would just recommend 50 divided by 4 because it was an easy one to do in your head. I would hope it would be easy, but if it wasn't, calculator, it winds up being 12.5. Now, I'm supposed to combine a positive 12.5 and a -10. Signs are different. Find the difference. Sign of the higher number, positive. And what's the difference between 12.5 and 10? 2.5. And I did accept the answer. Way up here in the corner, I'm up here. 2.5. You didn't have to give it to me in fraction form. We complete our journey. We made it to New York City. Bum, bum, ba-da-da-dum, bum, ba-da-da-dum, bum, ba-da-da-da. See you on the flip side, guys. Good job.